Ladies and gentlemen, today's episode we have Tom McManus, who has over a decade's experience working with children, neurotypical and neurodiverse, and he is going to tell us about his experience from the UK to the UAE. I'm going to ask Tom McManus to tell us his journey, share with us his journey and what he's up to in the UAE right now. Tom, welcome to Million Opinions.
Oh no, thank you for having me. Very excited.
How did your journey begin? And thoughts to teens in the UK and now in the UAE. How's that transition been so far?
Yeah, so I started. So when I left school, I went to college, started a sports course, basically looking at like BTEC courses. Transitioned into like a sports coaching course for my third year. Then I was lucky enough after I finished my third year to go and work in America for 2 years, just coaching football around the United States. And obviously going from the UK to somewhere like America, it was a crazy experience, especially at such a young age. And then on return to the UK, myself and my business partner Ben, we just thought, let's just start up our own company. It was crazy to do being so young and with very little experience back then. Obviously, we had coaching experience, but we didn't know how to run a business. We didn't know how to approach people. We didn't know how to network and move into schools. So it was kind of a long haul from the start. I think we started that in 2013, all the way up until 2016, and we rebranded on our own because originally it was a franchise. And then ever since then, it's kind of everything's just fell into place. So predominantly, my background was in football coaching, working with children from ages of 18 months up until 16, 17. So again, having that experience of working with babies and then actual adults who want to compete at a good level was challenging, but it was also fun to kind of learn as well. So back then, obviously we was coaching in schools, mainly delivering like PPA sessions. So when teachers have a break, we go in, we take the P lesson. And then we was lucky enough to work in a school in Altrincham in Manchester, which is really well known for its sport. A lot of the kids end up going onto a secondary school in Altrincham, which is known for producing good athletes. A lot of the kids end up who are there end up playing for teams like Manchester United and Manchester City. They do their education there. So creating a pathway for these children was very, very important at such a young age, because a lot of schools, especially in primary, and it's nothing wrong with the teachers, but a lot of the teachers who are specialised in maths and English will have to take P lessons, so it's getting those subject specialists in to teach fundamental skills was kind of like our niche. So from then, we worked there we're still working there now, we've still got coaches who go into that school, so we're now 2025, so nearly 12 years of working in the same school, which has been amazing, great partnership. I kind of then transitioned from primary to a secondary division, and this was just purely on luck. I was looking for more of a full-time role, because running a business comes with extra costs and it's quite expensive. The first 3-4 years, myself and Ben was putting a lot of money in ourselves to kind of keep it going and kind of getting it to a good level. So we kind of had to work as well. And I fell on my feet one day. I just applied for a supply job as a learning support assistant. I got a phone call in the morning saying, we've got a school in Bolton. Do you want to go to it? I was like, yeah, it's only round the corner. Just to let you know, it's not your normal mainstream school. It's a SEND division. And I was like, okay, I don't mind working with any children. It'd be a good experience. First 2 minutes of being in the classroom, you've got kids jumping on tables, you've got kids running out of class. And I was like, this is nothing I've ever seen before. Like, how are these children going to learn? How are they going to stay on task? And then that was literally from that day, I didn't leave that school for 7 years. So it was like a crazy, crazy experience. So again, I was lucky. I started off as a support staff, kind of building my skills, understanding how a classroom works, because again, like I said, I'm mainly just, before this, working outside, working on the sports halls, not knowing how these children are learning in the class. So for the first 2-3 years, I was just helping children, small groups of children, whether that was maths, English. A lot of the time as well, it was, can we take this child to a shop to go and buy something? Because all the skills that kind of you grow up with, where your parents take you out, a lot of these children didn't have that. So it was kind of, can we make them ready for post-16 life, rather than just, can we tick a box and make sure they get in the maths, their English and the qualifications. So from there, like I said, I spent 7 years. After 3 years, I was an unqualified teacher and took over the P role. Then a year after that, I took over the head of PE, and then the school, luckily enough, put me through my PGCE, and that was one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had. Like, it was a hardest year I've done in terms of academia, but again, I learnt so much from transitioning from a coach, and I feel like it's a good pathway for a lot of teachers. If you go through a coach's route first and then into a teacher, the skills you learn as a coach are easy to transfer. But the pedagogy side of it, how are these children behaving? How can we scaffold work? How can we make sure that they're not just focusing on... So my school used to have two different things. It was phase 1 targets and phase 2 targets. Phase 1 targets was all social and emotional and mental health needs. So can these children sit down for 5 minutes? If they're not going to sit down for 5 minutes, they're not going to do maths. So it's kind of building the fundamental skills to make sure that when they're 16... can they go out into the world and hold a job for longer than a day, 2 days, 3 days? So again, that experience of working with children, especially who are neurodiverse, kids who are from a low socioeconomic background, has been like my passion. And it's something where I feel like as an educator, I've learned the most, because it's easier to teach when everyone's wanting to learn. But then you're asking a lot yourself when you've got a class of 30 children and only 2 of them are on task. And you need to make sure that in some way this kid's making progress, or every kid is making progress at least 1%. And it doesn't have to be, can they kick a ball? Can they be in the sports hall for longer than 10 minutes without running out? If last week they was there for 5 minutes, that's progress. It's kind of building these blocks to make sure that the kids are actually, like I said prior, getting ready for that post-16 life.
So you started your business very young, and then when you were asked to join the school in Bolton, you said you don't mind working with any kids, even the neurodiverse. That was very brave of you when you went and entered the class and you saw the kids jumping around. What did you go through? And did it ever occur, how am I going to manage these kids if they're going to jump, they get hurt, and it's a group of kids? And were you the only one in class?
No, so in the UK, the funding is very good for kids who have diagnosed with SEND needs. So in my school, we had a class teacher, and you always have 2 learning support staff within the class, and you have no more than 12 kids. So a lot of the kids, there's a good ratio. Some kids will have additional funding depending what band they're on, and they might have one-to-one support who will stay with them all the time. But again, like I said, it was when I went into that environment, and there's a lot of turnover with staff in this environment, because I feel like you're either cut out for it or you're not. Like, it's very, very taxing. It's full on all the time. Like, you can't have a second to yourself because you've got to be constant. Like you said, you've got kids who are on tables, jumping around. And like I said, if anything happens, even though they're doing it, it's still on you. So you've got to make sure that everything's as safe as possible. And for those 6 hours you're having contact time with those kids, you need to be fully on it.
So what prepped you for that and then made you stay for another 7 years? I know you did say that you're either cut out for it or you're not. So what helped you prep? Is it the personality? Is it the presence of mind? Or is it also the education that you have then gotten yourself into?
I think it's mainly down to, you've just got to be very, very patient. You've got to not have very high expectations in terms of, if you're going in there as an educator, like, you're not going to have a perfect lesson. Nothing's going to be perfect. You've just got to make sure that your expectations are not low in terms of them achieving, but anything you ever thought of working in a classroom, you just got to strip it all back. And I learn from experience. So a lot of I'm a big believer in you get your reps in. So the more you do it, the better you get. So like I said, I was young at the start. I was full of enthusiasm, still am now. And that 100% helped me, because the amount of staff we had that came and left after a month, 2 months, 3 months, because it is taxing. And like I said, it's not for the faint-hearted. There's a lot of barriers. There's a lot more negatives that come out of it than they do positives, especially at the start. But it's just staying with the children, knowing that at the end of it, you're going to have a big impact on that life. And especially the area I was from, there's a lot of children who was in care, a lot of children who didn't have father figures, a lot of children who had parents who was in prison. So you've got a lot of children who don't even listen to the parents, so they're not going to listen to you. So you've just basically got to strip everything back, stay consistent, make sure that you're delivering the rules, but making sure that you're staying fair. And the biggest thing as well is making sure that everyone is on task in terms of your staffing. So I was very lucky, like the head teacher who's still there now is like one of the best head teachers I've ever worked with. And when he took over, originally we was in, I think, special measures. And then after our first Ofsted, we got good. Then we retained good on the last Ofsted just before we left. And it was making sure that every staff member in that place was consistent, because there's no point in me having a certain way and then they go to another class and that teacher's not on it, because, again, the children are just going to play up to the rules, and they are smart kids, so they know who they can take advantage of. But if everyone's on the same page, we all follow the same behaviour policy, we all keep the routines and structures throughout the day consistent, and you'll start to see progress. And it was little things like uniform, like you get kids who come in tracksuits because the parents are not buying uniform. So then we changed it around, so uniform was free. Children could wear it, they had to wear it. If they wasn't wearing it, it'd go to reflect in terms of, but we had something called behaviour points. So at the end of the week, these children be working to go to something like bowling, laser quest, something that they don't get to do with their own families. And they get that just by following the very basic rules. And that had a massive, massive impact, because you get a child who's never been to a bowling alley before, and all they want to do is go there with their friends they're in class with. And it's just reminding them that they're making good choices. Not really doing punitive measures. So a lot of it was, we focus a lot on the positives. So if you've been jumping around for 10 hours throughout the week, and then for one lesson you've sat there and you've done your work, that'd be we're just praise, always addressing the positive behaviour, not really addressing the negative behaviour, because a lot of the time they're just looking for that interaction, whether it is negative or positive, because they're not getting it anywhere else.
That is easier said than done, no? Because as individuals, we also have our own problems, and then it's not something that you can just divide your personal life and professional life. It does have a say overall. It does get overwhelming for some. So the support system, you're saying, that plays a massive role. Like you said, your head teacher was a good support, and so the rest of the team as well. Yeah,
100%. And like I said, it's like, so it's hard, but again, if everyone is on the same page and we've got a good pastoral setup, because that's like you said, it's hard to switch off. The amount of times you'd go home, and I've been at work till 7, 8 at night because I've had a kid who's ran off and he's gone missing, and you're on the phone to the police, you're still at work, you're trying to find this kid, you're literally going out your own way to make sure this kid gets home safe. So it does take a massive toll on you. But then the reward at the end of it, when this kid's leaving and he's 16, 17, and then they're going to get a job, and they're going to have they're meeting up with their families, and you can see him growing as an adult. That's worth all the heartache at the start, but it's hard to get there. But then obviously once you stay consistent and you carry on doing that, then you'll see the benefits at the end.
You moved to Dubai. How did that happen?
So it was a bit of a strange one. So I loved my job in the UK. I was there, like I said, for 7+ years. Loved working there, would have 100% stayed there. But then I had 2 friends who moved over to Dubai. I was turning 31 at the time, and I just saw how their lives changed for the better in terms of, at the minute, I feel like obviously the UK, there's a lot of tax, there's a lot of like it's very expensive to live. I know people say Dubai is expensive, but in the UK, it's very hard to save, it's very hard to get on the property ladder, it's very hard to kind of make your own life, especially if you're like mid-20s, early 30s. It's like it's physically impossible to work a normal job as a teacher, put as much money away as you can to buy a house. And I just saw when my friends moved over, I saw their lives change for better. They obviously getting better salaries, they was getting better experiences, able to save money. I had no real ties other than my family back home. I just thought, if I don't take the plunge now, I'm going to get to 35 and I'm going to regret not doing it, and I'm going to be in the same situation. So it was kind of, at the time I remember I put my notice in at school, I had to sit down with my head teacher. He had a very good conversation with me, because he moved to South Africa when he was younger, and again to teach. And he said, listen, he went, your job's always safe here. You go, you take a risk, you'll reap the rewards, because I know who you are as a person. If you don't, what have you got to lose? You come back. There'll always be a job in the trust. You'll be safe. But he went, if you don't take the risk, then you'll regret it for the rest of your life.
What is it that you do in the UAE? Tom, you're into PE, correct?
Yes.
And you also work with children with neurodiversity.
Yes. So at the minute I work at, as a PE teacher out here in Dubai. I started at the school I work at in January, originally as a swim coach. That was a different experience because I've had experience with swimming back in the UK, did a lot of GCSE moderation at swimming, but never really specialised in swimming. So last December I did a swim course, landed a job as a swim coach at the school I work at now, and then transitioned into a PE teacher shortly after that. Again, it's a massive change because I'm working in a different curriculum now. In the UK it was all British. At the minute I'm working in an IB curriculum, which is all like inquiry-based learning, so everything's very different. But I feel like with sport, there's always like the same outcomes, so it was easy to transfer over. In terms of like what I'm doing now, I love the school I work at. The kids are amazing. It's completely different. It's like from the kids I was working with in the UK to the kids I'm working with now. It's so different. Like you'd be doing a PE lesson, you're like, right, let's line up, and the kids line up. It's like back in the UK, I was trying to like herd sheep to try and get them to stand in a line for 30 seconds. But yeah, I'm loving it out here. It's been a big experience. Facilities are 10 times better than the UK. Like going to a school where you've got a swimming pool. Like back in the UK, you used to have to get on a bus and drive 20 minutes down the road to the local swimming baths. Like you've got AstroTurf, you've got indoor tennis courts, netball courts. So the kids have got every opportunity to succeed, whether that's in basketball, football, netball. So it's really good to kind of have the facilities to be able to teach in.
The neurodiversity support that you see over here when compared to the UK, and I know UAE is doing their best to get there, but what's the difference between the both of them?
I think it's purely down to the lack of funding in the UAE. So a lot of it is self-funded. So if you've got a kid who's neurodiverse and they require additional support, the parents have to pay for that. Where in the UK, it's government funded. So the school will get a pot of money for that child to make sure they're getting put on like an enrichment program. They've got someone who's going to support them in class. Where in the UAE, you don't get that. And if the parents are not willing to do that, you can't physically make them. So the kids are kind of being set up to fail a little bit. I'm hoping that it will change because the way that Send is moving at the minute, especially in the UAE, you can kind of see that there's a massive, massive drive on it. So I'm hoping that eventually I get to a point where there'll be some sort of government funding where these children who are not getting the support they're getting now will eventually get that, because the schools can only do like so much. Like, because a lot of the schools over here, especially like in the private sector, a lot of them obviously apart from like the non-for-profit schools where they put a lot of money back in, a lot of schools over here, first and foremost, are businesses. And as a business, they've got to make sure that they're paying all the cost, all the overheads. And if they've not got the money to physically put into these schools, then, and the parents are not paying for this additional support, then the children can't physically get it. And I know we obviously like spoke about people moving over. You get a lot of people, like a lot of funding, what parents will pay. But a lot of the time as well, I've worked with some great learning supports over here. But a lot of the times, a lot of people don't have the experience that people would do from different, say for instance, like in the UK where you've worked in a SEND division, a lot of people over here, because the money is not great in terms of classroom support, what people are being paid, they're not getting the top people in that field. So you're getting people who are just starting out who are learning as well, which, like I said, like everyone I've seen and worked with have been absolutely amazing. Like some of the stuff that these people like put up with and they help these children like progress has been amazing. But again, it's rather, can we upskill the staff, not just put support in for the pupils. I feel that'd be a massive help.
So, as a PE teacher and someone who works with sports, what are the common questions that parents ask you, or some questions that you would want to address everybody in the audience on the show?
So a lot of the parents, to be fair, especially in Dubai, sports it's a big pull for all schools. So you've got some of the top schools in Dubai where the parents will send their kids to that school just because they're looking at like becoming athletes. So a lot of it is driven on, how's my child doing in PE? Are they progressing? Are they hitting this level? Are they in the A team? Why are they not in the A team? Why have they not made the squad? And a lot of the time, the parents just want their child to be in the best division, but it doesn't necessarily work like that, because we have a lot of children who, just because they're not great athletes, doesn't mean they should have a different right to sport. So we do have a big push on development in terms of development league, development sessions. We use a lot of like outside help coming in. So one of the biggest questions you do get off the parents, like I said, is how's my child progressing? And they're the hardest conversations, because sometimes you can like just, how can I word it? So instead of like being honest, people can just be quite easy just to push it off. Yeah, they're doing great. But people have to have difficult conversations at times. Like sometimes you have to say, your child's struggling, for instance, in swimming. Your child's not at this level. By the time they get to this year, they're falling behind. So you have to go out and get them additional support. So whether you go to a swim academy, whether you do this, a lot of time parents will be like, well, why are they not learning it in PE? I'm like, well, they are learning it, but they still need extra hour. 1 hour a week is not going to get your child to where they need to be. So I'm just telling you as an educator, it's best for your child if you can go out there. You can then spend a few extra hours a week with an actual swim academy and a swim coach to learn the fundamental skills that they're lacking. That will help them progress more. Like, we can only do so much.
And how is it taken by the parents?
Sometimes good, sometimes bad. It all just depends on the parents. I've been lucky enough, to be fair, so far. I've not really had any difficult parents, especially over here, like a lot of the parents. And again, it's just, if you're honest with them and you're open with them and you build that relationship, that's the biggest key. It's when you're not very visible, and then you're the first person they see on parents' evening, and then you've not spoke to them all year, and then you're saying, oh, your child's not doing this. But if you've had that conversation throughout the year, you're making regular phone calls, you're letting them know where they're progressing, where they need extra help, it's a lot easier to have the difficult conversations. And I feel like just building that rapport with the parents is the most important bit. It's hard to do because it's taxing, but...
So what values do you instill in your sessions?
So biggest values, especially in any sport, any P lesson, is kindness. Are we good communicators? Are we working together as a team? Are you helping each other? They're the biggest priorities. Like, you could have a child who's the best athlete, but if they lose a session and they're shouting at their mate because they're not doing something right, they're not learning the social side of it. So it's first and foremost, it's creating good people, and then the athlete can come after. Whether you're looking at like someone who's going to go progress to the UAE national team, whether you're looking for someone who's going to go play with their friends at the park, at the end of the day, if they're not good and they're not kind, they're not working together, it's going to have such a negative impact on them as they grow up older. And it's kind of like what it's linked back to my old schools, like the phase 1 targets. It's all good achieving all these academic supports, ticking the boxes, but if they're not going to be good humans, they're going to suffer later in life. So it's kind of instilling the basic values of being a kind person, being a good teammate at a young age, so that as they progress, they've kind of got the fundamental skills already there.
Any tips you'd share with any of the PE teachers or coaches in order to do this?
I just think a lot of the lessons should be based on, I know you obviously spoke to Ben about this a lot as well, about cooperative learning. Cooperative learning is massive in terms of helping a child learn, not just like the skills, but also learn how other people learn. Like, having a group of children with all different backgrounds who are learning off each other is massive in sport. And it's probably the biggest tool you can use in PE, because a lot of the time you've got massive class sizes and you've got massive sessions. And if you're just focusing on one area, then you're missing so many children throughout the lesson. Like, you've got good children there, let them learn off each other. So it's kind of facilitating them, like pairing people up, making sure that we've got everyone from different backgrounds working together. Because you could have children who have lived in different countries, who have travelled different schools, and they could have learned something from a PE teacher in a different country. They could bring over to this school something that we've never seen or never learned, and deliver that to another child. It's massive for the development.
A message for every parent that is listening.
I just say lower expectations and just be patient. So in terms of like sport's there to have fun. If your child's not having fun, they're not going to learn. That's the be all and end all. And a lot of times parents can be quite pushy. They can kind of expect their child to be at a level where they're not quite at yet. But you've just got to be patient. People learn at different stages. You could have a child who's in grade 6 and they could be miles off it in terms of, I'll say, for instance, football. But then they could get to grade 9 and they could have grown. They could have blossomed. They could have ended up being a better athlete. But that doesn't mean that just because they're not there at grade 7, grade 6, doesn't mean that they're never going to get there. It's just everyone learns at different stages, and it's just being patient and making sure your child's having fun, playing with friends, being at a good academy, making sure that you're doing extracurricular stuff outside of school as well, especially with coaches who have the same kind of philosophy. That's the biggest advice I can give to any parent, and just lower expectations, because like the only reason I got into PE, and a lot of people get into PE like yourself with sport, is because you probably loved it as a child, and that's all you remember. That's all that the child's not going to remember what they learnt back in year 3, but they're going to remember the fun they had with their friends playing this game, and that's the big drive that we need to kind of get the parents to understand.
Your message to any student athlete listening?
Again, just a lot of it. It's hard now because because students, athletes, especially as they get older, all they're seeing online is athletes online on TikTok, on Instagram, and straight away they want to be at the top level. Again, just be patient, lower your expectations, and be humble at everything. It's like, just because you're not there yet doesn't mean you're never going to get there. Like, I didn't play football till I was 16, 17. Managed to play at an okay level, but again, I didn't kick a ball properly until I was that age. And I was patient enough to kind of work with the right people, listen to my coaches, listen to the experts, take advice, and be open to criticism. Like a lot of kids at the minute, resilience is quite low. So when you have difficult conversations, they can struggle. But you need to have the difficult conversations, otherwise they're never going to learn. So it's, can we then sit them down, have the difficult conversations, and again, just take your time. There's no rush. There's no rush. Be all and end all is, we all know that you want to get there. We all know that you want to get to this level. We will help you get to that level. But just take the pressure off yourself, because if you're not enjoying it, that's when you start making mistakes. That's when you're not going to learn. You need to have the fun there so you can learn.
Your message to any of the PE teachers and coaches listening?
In terms of, so what I would say again, like, biggest thing I've done, especially since moving to Dubai, it's been completely different to the UK, is work with different people. Like, I've been lucky enough to meet some amazing PE teachers. Again, I feel like you learn so much by observing different people, working with different people. And again, it's just being humble enough to know that none of us are experts. Like, none of us are the best in the field. Someone might be better at one subject, someone might be better at the other. Someone might be better at one sport. Is, can we learn off each other? Can we network? Can we work together collaboratively? And it's making sure that you're constantly trying to develop yourself. You can learn like loads online. Like, I've seen some great teachers online at the minute who are delivering lessons on TikTok and Instagram. And again, like, I can sit there and watch that, and it can refresh my memory on something that I learned years ago, but I completely forgot about it. So just being open to learning and being open to be humble enough to know that you can change your practice and you'll learn something new off anyone you meet.
Would you be open to parents or students reaching out to you if they have any queries?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm passionate about trying to help children develop, but again, helping parents develop as well, and again, they can reach out to us in terms of what works for their children. It's having that open communication with each other. So if they've got a question for us, we might have a question for them about, they know their children better than us. We might know their children in a different setting better than them. So it's kind of making sure that the parents are not scared to communicate with you. Ask difficult questions. We will give you the best support we can. Obviously, if you help us with the support as well. So it's just having that two-way communication and that partnership.
Is there anything that you want to, any other message that you want to say to anyone? Any of the services that you provide?
Yeah, so obviously at the minute, like we said, we're talking about a lot about SEND. We're running a program at the minute called Sentient Beast, which is aimed at children who are neurodiverse. So our main philosophy for Sentient Beast is, can we use cooperative learning to help children regulate their emotions? And it's what I'm currently doing my dissertation on now at the university, because I'm currently doing my master's in SEND. And it's making people aware that there's provisions out there. So at the minute, we did a pilot scheme back in November, which you got to observe a little bit of, which was great. And we're going to be running that back out in January. So we're kind of looking for any parent out there who want to get their child into some sort of extracurricular sport who are neurodiverse, because at the minute there's not many providers out there who are providing this kind of bespoke sessions. And we just want to make sure that these parents know that your child can still develop. Like, a lot of it is based on learning the fundamental skills of being a good human? Can we help them regulate their emotions? Can we get them to understand their emotions? 'Cause especially with children with ADHD, autism, understanding being in different environments, and like I said, the main thing is not having an option to regulate their emotions or the tools to do that is a massive barrier when they come to their PE lessons at school. So our aim is to kind of give these children a toolkit for when they're in their PE lessons or when they're going to different academies outside of school, they're able to kind of understand themselves a little bit better to make sure when they can participate, when they need to go take a minute, why they're feeling sad, why they're feeling angry, why they're excited. And again, that just comes down to us delivering sessions, helping these children understand failure and how it's not the be all and end all. So then when they go into their PE lessons, they're not being left behind.
So if anyone wants to reach out to you and know more about Sentient Beats, how do they do that?
So what we can do, I can drop the sign up link if you want on the video as well. And then we can send over like the leaflet and stuff, what we'll be sending out, which we can attach as well. Like I said, we'll be running that down in January, and we run that at Louise Dawson's clinic, who's a massive advocate for children with SEN. She's been partnered with us now running this programme since the start with Ben. So again, we're working closely with her to make sure that we're providing these children with the best platform. So we'll drop the email, the sign up link and the website down in the description. Then you can sign that, or again, just reach out on LinkedIn.